Seven planes of the mind. The Vedas speak of seven planes where the mind dwells. When the mind is immersed in worldliness, it dwells in the three lower planes, at the navel, the organ of generation, and the organ of evacuation. In that state, the mind loses all its higher visions. It broods only on woman and gold. The fourth plane of the mind is at the heart. When the mind dwells there, one has the first glimpse of spiritual consciousness. One sees light all around. Such a man, perceiving the divine light, becomes speechless with wonder and says, "Ah, what is this? What is this?" His mind does not go downward to the objects of the world. The fifth plane of the mind is at the throat. When the mind reaches this, the aspirant becomes free from all ignorance and illusion. He does not enjoy talking or hearing about anything but God. If people talk about worldly things, he leaves the place at once. The sixth plane is at the forehead. When the mind reaches it, the aspirant sees the form of God day and night. But even then, a little trace of ego remains. At the sight of that incomparable beauty of God's form, one becomes intoxicated and rushes forth to touch and embrace it. But one does not succeed. It is like the light inside a lantern. One feels as if one could touch the light, but one cannot on account of the pane of glass. In the top of the head is the seventh plane. When the mind rises there, one goes into samadhi. Then the Brahmgyani directly perceives Brahman, but in that state his body does not last many days. He remains unconscious of the outer world. If milk is poured into his mouth, it runs out. Dwelling on this plane of consciousness, he gives up his body in 21 days. That is the condition of the Brahmgyani. But yours is the path of devotion. That is a very good and easy path. Once a man said to me, "Sir, can you teach me quickly the thing you call samadhi?" All laugh. Duties drop away with deepening of spiritual mood. After a man has attained samadhi, all his actions drop away. All devotional activities such as worship, jap and the like, as well as all worldly duties, cease to exist for such a person. At the beginning there is much ado about work. As a man makes progress towards God, the outer display of his work becomes less and less, so much so that he cannot even sing the name and glories of God. To Shivnath, as long as you were not here at the meeting, people talked a great deal about you and discussed your virtues, but no sooner did you arrive here than all that stopped. Now the very sight of you makes everyone happy. People now simply say, "Aha, here is Shivnath Babu." All other talk about you has stopped. What happens after samadhi? After attaining samadhi, I once went to the Ganges to perform tarpan, but as I took water in the palm of my hand, it trickled down through my fingers. Weeping, I said to Haladhari, "Cousin, what is this?" Haladhari replied, "It is called Galithast in the holy books." After the vision of God, such duties as the performance of tarpan drop away. In the Kirtan, the devotees first sings Nitai Amar Mata Hati. As the devotional mood deepens, he simply sings Hati Hati. Next, all he can sing is Hati. And last of all, he simply sings Ha and goes into Samadhi. The man who has been singing all the while then becomes speechless. Again, at a feast given to the Brahmins, one at first hears much noise of talking. When the guests sit on the floor with leaf plates in front of them, much of the noise ceases. Then one hears only the cry, "Bring some luchi." As they partake of the luchi and other dishes, 3/4 of the noise subsides. When the curd, the last course, appears, one hears only the sound "soup, soup," as the guests eat the curd with their fingers. Then there is practically no noise. Afterwards, all retire to sleep and absolute silence reigns. Therefore, I say, at the beginning of religious life, a man makes much ado about work, but as his mind dives deeper into God, he becomes less active. Last of all comes the renunciation of work, followed by samadhi. Generally, the body does not remain alive after the attainment of samadhi. The only exceptions are such sages as Narad, who keep their bodies alive in order to bring spiritual light to others. It is also true of divine incarnations like Chaitanya. After the well is dug, one generally throws away the spade and the basket, but some keep them in order to help their neighbors. The great souls who retain their bodies after samadhi feel compassion for the suffering of others. They are not so selfish as to be satisfied with their own illumination. You are well aware of the nature of selfish people. If you ask them to spit at a particular place, they won't, lest it should do you good. If you ask them to bring a sweetmeat worth a cent from the store, they will perhaps lick it on the way back or laugh. But the manifestations of divine power are different in different beings. Ordinary souls are afraid to teach others. A piece of worthless timber may itself somehow float across the water, but it sinks even under the weight of a bird. Sages like Narad are like a heavy log of wood, which not only floats on the water, but also can carry men, cows, and even elephants. To Shivnath and other Brahmo devotees, can you tell me why you dwell so much on the powers and glories of God? I asked the same thing of Keshav Sen. One day Keshav and his party came to the temple garden at Dakshineshwar. I told them I wanted to hear how they lectured. A meeting was arranged in the paved courtyard above the bathing ghat on the Ganges, where Keshav gave a talk. He spoke very well. I went into a trance. After the lecture I said to Keshav, why do you so often say such things as, O God, what beautiful flowers thou hast made? O God, thou hast created the heavens, the stars, and the ocean, and so on. Those who love splendor themselves are fond of dwelling on God's splendor. Once a thief stole the jewels from the images in the temple of Radhakant. Mathur Babu entered the temple and said to the deity, what a shame, O God! You couldn't save your own ornaments. The idea, I said to Mathur, does he who has Lakshmi for his handmaid and attendant ever lack any splendor? Those jewels may be precious to you, but to God they are no better than lumps of clay. Shame on you. You shouldn't have spoken so meanly. What riches can you give to God to magnify his glory? Therefore I say, a man seeks the person in whom he finds joy. What need has he to ask where that person lives, the number of his houses, garden, relatives and servants, or the amount of his wealth? I forget everything when I see Narendra. Never even unwittingly have I asked him where he lived, what his father's profession was, or the number of his brothers. Dive deep in the sweetness of God's bliss. What need have I of his infinite creation and unlimited glory? The Master sang, dive deep, O mind, dive deep in the ocean of God's beauty. If you descend to the uttermost depths, there you will find the gem of love. Go seek, O mind, go seek Vrindavan in your heart, where with his loving devotees Shri Krishna sports eternally. Light up, O mind, light up true wisdom's shining lamp, and let it burn with steady flame unceasingly within your heart. Who is it that steers your boat across the solid earth? It is your Guru, says Kabir. Meditate on his holy feet. Sri Ramakrishna continued, it is also true that after the vision of God, the devotee desires to witness his Leela. After the destruction of Ravan at Rama's hands, Nikasha, Ravana's mother, began to run away for fear of her life. Lakshman said to Rama, revered brother, please explain this strange thing to me. This Nikasha is an old woman who has suffered a great deal from the loss of her many sons, and yet she is so afraid of losing her own life that she is taking to her heels. Rama bade her come near, gave her assurance of safety, and asked her why she was running away. Nikasha answered, O Rama, I am able to witness all this Leela of yours because I am still alive. I want to live longer so that I may see the many more things you will do on this earth. All love. To Shivnath, I like to see you. How can I live unless I see pure soul devotees? I feel as if they had been my friends in a former incarnation.